It was a Tuesday morning, and as I sipped my usual cup of coffee, I had no idea that a single text message would change the way I saw my family forever. My name is Andrea Quinn. I'm 35 years old, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the family's fixer, the one who steps in to solve problems, pay bills, and keep the peace. I was used to sacrificing my time, my money, and even my pride to make sure everyone else was okay. But I never imagined that generosity would one day be thrown back in my face. When my phone buzzed, I assumed it was a work email or a sweet message from my boyfriend. But it wasn't. It was a text from my brother, one short line that made my stomach drop. "Don't bother coming, the wedding is only for family." I froze. I had spent $23,000 on his luxury ballroom wedding in Dallas, covering the venue deposit, the catering, and even their custom invitations. I read the message again and again, each word cutting deeper. When I called him to ask why, he simply scoffed and told me that I didn't fit the vision they had for their big day. My hands trembled as I typed my reply, "Understood." But inside, my thoughts were racing. $23,000, years of bailing him out of debt, countless bills I had paid, and now suddenly I wasn't considered family anymore. The irony burned in my chest. I stared at the payment confirmations on my laptop, each one a cold reminder of the sacrifices I had made. This time, though, there would be no tears, no begging, no more bending over backward to earn their approval. 30 minutes later, I made a decision, one that would completely unravel his picture-perfect wedding and remind him that even the most patient person has a breaking point. Before I tell you the rest of the story, leave a comment below with what time it is right now and which city you're watching from. I want to see just how far this story has reached. By noon, I was staring at my laptop, bank statements open. My coffee sat cold, untouched since that morning's jolt. I clicked into my email, pulling up the confirmation for the $23,000 I'd wired for Justin Quinn's wedding venue, a glitzy ballroom in Dallas that he and his wife, Marissa Reed, swore was their dream. The receipt glared back, a stark reminder of every dollar I'd poured into their vision. I scrolled through my inbox, unearthing more $1, $200 for their apartment's overdue utilities last summer, $2,500 for Marissa's car repair, when her sedan broke down, $4,000 for a custom leather sofa they needed to impress their social circle. Each email tightened the knot in my chest, a ledger of my sacrifices for their comfort. Caleb, my boyfriend, leaned over, his eyes scanning the screen. At 36, he's always seen what I couldn't. "You're not their ATM, Andrea," he said, his voice calm but firm. "When does it end?" His question cut deep, forcing me to retrace years of playing family fixer. I'd covered Justin's phone plans, Marissa's designer dresses for their engagement photos, even their grocery bills during his rough patches, all to keep the peace. But peace at what cost? I dug into a folder of old invoices, my fingers pausing on a $3,000 payment for their engagement party at a rooftop lounge. My breath hitched as I tallied the total, over $30,000 across years. The numbers weren't just money, they were my time, my savings, my trust handed over without a second thought. I opened another email, this one from the ballroom's manager, confirming my payment and detailing the venue's setup: crystal chandeliers, marble floors, a stage for their perfect vows. I'd even negotiated a discount to save them $2,000, a detail they never acknowledged. The memory stung, hours on the phone, juggling my own work, all for their gratitude to vanish. My jaw clenched as I realized how easily they'd dismissed me. I wasn't just funding their wedding, I was propping up their entire lifestyle. Caleb sat beside me, scrolling through my bank app to confirm the transfers. "You deserve better," he said, his hand on mine. His words weren't just comfort, they were a mirror reflecting a truth I'd avoided for years. Angela, my best friend and an event planner, texted, then asking to meet about a charity gala I'd pitched months ago. Her message wasn't about my family mess she didn't know yet, but it lit a spark. Why was I funding their lives instead of my own? I pictured the gala, a night of purpose, not obligation, with tables draped in white linen, guests raising funds for a local shelter. It was something I could build, something mine. That thought steadied me. I opened a spreadsheet, typing out every expense I'd covered for Justin and Marissa, dates, amounts, reasons, from utility bills to that overpriced sofa. My fingers flew across the keyboard, each entry sharpening my focus. I added a column for notes, jotting down how they'd promised to repay soon or claimed it was just this once. The truth wasn't just in the numbers, it was in the pattern of their demands and my blind generosity. I saved the file, naming it Family Costs. This wasn't about settling scores, it was about owning my reality. That evening, I sent Justin a text, my fingers steady. "Why am I not invited to your wedding?" I typed, keeping it short, direct, my heart racing with a mix of anger and disbelief. I'd spent $23,000 on their Dallas ballroom, not to mention years of bailing them out. The phone sat silent for 10 minutes, then buzzed. Justin's reply lit up the screen. "We're keeping it intimate, Andrea. You don't fit the vibe, too much baggage for our elegant aesthetic." His words stung sharp and mocking, as if my sacrifices were a stain on their perfect day. Elegant aesthetic. I stared at the message, his sarcasm slicing through years of trust I'd built with him. He didn't even bother to call, just tossed that jab over text like it was nothing. My phone pinged again, this time from Stephen, my dad. "Andrea, don't stir up trouble," he wrote. "You know how important this wedding is. Keep the peace." His tone carried that familiar weight, the kind that always pushed me to swallow my feelings for the sake of family harmony. I gripped the phone, my knuckles white, his words echoing every time I'd been asked to step back, to give more, to stay quiet. Dad wasn't asking, he was demanding. I let Justin's insult slide. I didn't reply, not yet. The idea of keeping the peace felt like betraying myself, and I wasn't ready to cave. I called Angela, my voice shaking as I spilled the story of Justin's text and Dad's message. She listened, her silence steady, not jumping in with advice or pity. "That's rough," she said finally, her tone neutral, focused on her own day's chaos with a client's event. She didn't try to fix me, which was fine. I wasn't looking for a savior. I just needed to say it out loud to let the betrayal sink in. Hanging up, I felt the weight of my own words, the raw truth of being dismissed by my own brother. I opened my laptop, diving into the email chain with the ballroom's booking manager. The subject line read, "Final payment details," and I skimmed the terms. $10,000 due tomorrow to secure the venue. My cursor hovered over the reply button. Canceling that payment could stop their wedding in its tracks. The thought sent a jolt through me, not revenge, but a way to reclaim what was mine. I read the contract again, noting the refund policy, my mind calculating the fallout. Could I really do this? It wasn't just about the money. It was about respect, something Justin and Dad clearly didn't have for me. Caleb walked in, catching the tension in my face. "You don't owe them anything," he said, sitting across from me. His voice was firm, not pushy, reminding me of the spreadsheet I'd made earlier, the one that laid bare years of their demands. "You've given enough, Andrea. Protect yourself." At 36, Caleb had a way of cutting through my doubts, not with grand gestures, but with quiet truths. His words settled in like a shield around my resolve. I didn't need to be the family fixer anymore. I closed the laptop, my decision not yet final, but clearer than before. This wasn't about proving a point, it was about standing up for my worth. The next morning, I logged into the venue's payment portal. My cursor hovered over the cancel payment button, the $10,000 final deposit for Justin's Dallas ballroom wedding glaring back at me. I'd already paid $23,000, but this was the line I'd draw. I clicked, confirming the cancellation with a cold sense of resolve. An automated email popped up confirming the transaction was voided. My heart pounded, not with guilt, but with a strange clarity. I wasn't just stopping a payment, I was reclaiming my dignity after years of being their wallet. The decision felt final, like closing a chapter I'd left open too long. Within hours, my phone buzzed with a forwarded message from the venue's manager to Justin: "Due to non-payment of the final deposit, we regret to inform you that your event is canceled." The ballroom Marissa's dream stage for their elegant day was gone. I imagined Justin's face, his smug confidence crumbling. He'd mocked me as baggage, but now his perfect wedding was unraveling. The manager's email was formal, unyielding, stating they'd already begun rebooking the slot. I didn't feel triumph, just a quiet certainty that I'd done what was right for me. My phone rang, and Patricia, my mom, was on the line. "Andrea, how could you?" She snapped, her voice thick with accusation. "You're selfish, ruining Justin's happiness over your petty grudge." Mom's words cut, painting me as the villain while defending Justin's entitlement. She didn't ask why I'd canceled, didn't care about the $23,000 I'd spent. It was all about her golden boy. I stayed calm, saying, "Mom, I'm done funding their lives." She huffed, insisting I fix it for the family's sake, but I hung up, my hands shaking, but my mind steady. The family group chat exploded minutes later. Aunts and cousins flooded the thread, some blasting me for sabotaging Justin, others silent. Then private messages trickled in. My cousin Lisa wrote, "You did the right thing. They've used you for years." Uncle Mark echoed her, saying he'd seen Justin's pattern before. Their support, though small, felt like a lifeline, proof I wasn't the monster Mom claimed. The chat's chaos showed the family's divide, but I didn't engage. I'd made my choice, and their noise wouldn't pull me back. I drafted an email to Justin attaching the cancellation notice from the venue. "You owe me $23,000 for what I've already paid," I wrote, keeping it sharp and professional. "This ends now." Sending it felt like shedding a weight I'd carried too long. Justin didn't reply, but I knew he'd seen it. Marissa's frantic texts to mutual friends were already circulating. I didn't care about their panic. They'd built their dream on my back, and I was done carrying it. Caleb sat with me, pulling up the venue's contract on his laptop. "Let's make sure this is airtight," he said, scrolling through the fine print. He pointed out the clause allowing cancellation for non-payment, confirming my move was legal. His calm focus grounded me, a reminder that I wasn't alone in this fight. We cross-checked every detail, dates, amounts, terms, ensuring Justin couldn't twist this against me. Caleb's support wasn't loud, but it was solid, like a wall I could lean on. I closed the laptop, knowing I'd protected myself. This wasn't about hurting anyone, it was about taking back what was mine. 2 days later, my phone lit up with notifications. I opened Instagram, and there it was. Justin's post, a polished photo of him and Marissa in their engagement shoot, captioned, "Some people are too selfish to celebrate love. My sister chose to sabotage our wedding." The word selfish burned into me, his public smear twisting the knife after I'd canceled their $10,000 venue deposit. He didn't mention the $23,000 I'd already paid for their Dallas ballroom or the years I'd propped up their lives. Comments poured in, his friends calling me heartless, strangers piling on without knowing the truth. My pulse quickened, not from shame, but from the audacity of his lie. Justin, the master of optics, had turned our family mess into a social media spectacle. The doorbell rang that afternoon, and Marissa stood on my porch, her designer bag clutched tight. "You need to pay the venue, Andrea," she demanded, her voice, sharp eyes narrowed. "You're ruining our day." She spoke like I owed her, as if my $23,000 wasn't enough. I pulled out my phone, opening the spreadsheet I'd made days ago, listing every expense I'd covered: their utilities, her car repair, their sofa. "I've paid enough," I said, showing her the total, over $30,000. "Find another way." Marissa's face flushed, but she didn't argue, just stormed off, muttering about my betrayal. I stood firm, my resolve unshaken, refusing to be their bank any longer. Caleb was in the kitchen watching the exchange. "Justin needs to own this," he said, his tone steady but fierce. "You've carried them too long." He crossed his arms, his quiet strength anchoring me. Caleb didn't raise his voice, but his words cut through my lingering guilt, reminding me that Justin's choices, not mine, had led to this mess. He gestured to my laptop, suggesting I check the venue's email for updates, but I wasn't ready to dive back into their chaos. Caleb's point was clear. Their problems weren't my burden anymore. I opened Twitter, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I wasn't going to let Justin's post define me. I typed a single tweet, paid $23,000 for my brother's wedding only to be uninvited. Done being used. I hit send, keeping it short, factual, no drama. Within minutes, retweets and replies flooded in, people shocked, some sharing their own stories of family betrayal. My tweet wasn't about revenge, it was about setting the record straight. The notifications kept coming, a wave of strangers validating what I'd known, but hadn't said out loud. I deserved better. Angela texted me that evening, her message brief. Justin's post is tanking, she wrote. His followers are calling him out for lying. She didn't offer sympathy or advice, just the update, her focus still on her event planning hustle. I checked Instagram again, and she was right. Justin's comments section had turned. Friends who'd initially backed him were quiet while others questioned his story. "Where's the $23,000 she paid?" one user wrote. Another called him ungrateful. The backlash wasn't my goal, but it felt like justice, a public unraveling of his carefully curated image. I didn't reply to Angela, just set my phone down, letting the truth do its work. I leaned back, staring at my tweets' growing traction. The numbers didn't matter as much as the clarity they brought. Justin and Marissa had built their lives on my sacrifices, then painted me as the villain when I stopped. Caleb sat beside me, scrolling through the replies, a small nod signaling his approval. I wasn't fighting for their approval anymore. This was about owning my story, not theirs. By Sunday, my bank app pinged with 3 deposits. I opened it, my eyes widening at the notifications: $10,000, $8,000, and $5,000, totaling the $23,000 Justin owed me for his canceled Dallas ballroom wedding. No message, no apology, just cold, hard transfers, likely spurred by the social media firestorm after my Twitter post. His Instagram smear had backfired, with followers calling him out for ingratitude. I stared at the numbers, a mix of relief and exhaustion washing over me. This wasn't a victory, it was a reckoning. Justin had paid, but the cost of his betrayal lingered, a wound that money couldn't heal. Angela met me for coffee that afternoon, her usual planner's chaos replaced by a rare calm. "You drew a line, Andrea," she said, stirring her latte. "That's power." Her words hit deep, the first time she'd offered more than a neutral nod in this mess. She leaned forward, her eyes steady. "You're not just their bank, you're you. Don't let them take that." For once, Angela wasn't distracted by work. She was here helping me see the strength in my boundaries. I sipped my coffee, her support sinking in, a quiet affirmation that I'd done right by myself. My phone buzzed with a text from Patricia Quinn, my mom. "Andrea, forgive Justin. We need to heal as a family." She wrote, her tone softer but still heavy with expectation. I read it twice, my chest tightening at her familiar plea for harmony. She hadn't acknowledged my pain or the years I'd funded Justin's life. I typed back, "Mom, I'm done fixing things for him." My finger hit send, final and unyielding. I wasn't shutting her out, but I wouldn't carry the weight of her demands anymore. Messages from relatives started pouring in: Cousin Lisa, Uncle Mark, even Aunt Claire. "You stood up for yourself," Lisa wrote. "That took guts." Mark added, "We're proud of you, Andrea." Their words were a balm, proof that not everyone saw me as the villain Mom painted. I scrolled through their texts, each one reinforcing my choice to stop enabling Justin. Their support wasn't loud, but it was real, a chorus of voices that drowned out the guilt Mom tried to stir. I opened the family group chat, my thumb hovering over Justin's name. His silence since the deposit spoke volumes. He'd paid, but hadn't faced me. I tapped remove, kicking him out of the chat. A weight lifted, like cutting a chain I'd dragged for years. Marissa wasn't in the group, but removing Justin felt like closing a door on both of them. I didn't need their approval or their drama. For the first time, I felt free, untethered from the role of family fixer. Caleb walked in, catching my small smile. "You need a break," he said, pulling out his phone to show me a state park's website. "Let's do a picnic next weekend, hiking, fresh air, just us." His idea was simple, but it sparked something light in me, a chance to focus on my own life. We sat together planning trails and snacks, his steady presence a reminder that I wasn't alone. I wasn't rebuilding a broken family, I was building something new for myself. On Tuesday, Caleb and I drove to a quiet lakeside. The water shimmered under the morning sun, and we spread a blanket near the shore, unpacking sandwiches and iced tea. The air felt crisp, free of the chaos that had consumed me for weeks. Caleb tossed a pebble into the lake, its ripples spreading wide, and I exhaled, letting the drama with Justin and Marissa fade for the first time. We talked about simple things, work favorite hikes, a new restaurant in town. The peace wasn't just in the scenery, it was in knowing I'd set boundaries and stuck to them. I leaned against Caleb, his arm around me, and felt lighter than I had in years. My phone buzzed with a message from a mutual friend spilling news about Justin. His Instagram post, the one calling me selfish, had cost him a major marketing contract with a Dallas boutique brand. Clients didn't want their name tied to someone who'd publicly trashed his sister after she'd funded his wedding. The backlash had grown, with industry contacts distancing themselves. I didn't smile at the news. It wasn't about revenge. Justin's choices had built this fallout, and I wasn't responsible for catching him anymore. The weight of his consequences was his alone. Another message popped up, this one linking to an online listing. Marissa had posted her designer jewelry for sale, a diamond necklace, gold earrings, even her engagement photo shoot bracelet. The listing mentioned urgent wedding expenses, a clear sign they were scrambling to cover costs after the ballroom cancellation. I scrolled through the photos, recognizing pieces I'd once admired. Her desperation didn't spark pity, only a quiet acknowledgement that she and Justin were facing the reality of their actions. They'd leaned on me for too long, and now they were learning to stand on their own. A text from my cousin Lisa revealed more family ripples. Patricia Quinn and Stephen Quinn. My mom and dad were losing favor with relatives. Lisa wrote that Aunt Claire and Uncle Mark had skipped Mom's weekly brunch, tired of her defending Justin while ignoring my side. Other cousins had pulled back too, whispering about Mom and Dad's blind support for their son. I didn't feel glee, just a strange calm. Their isolation wasn't my doing, it was the cost of their bias, a truth I'd long seen, but never voiced. Angela sent me a batch of photos from a charity gala she'd organized, the one we'd discussed weeks ago. The images showed elegant tables, soft lighting, and smiling guests raising funds for a local shelter. "You'd love this, Andrea," she texted. "Come to the next one." Her invitation wasn't laced with pity or advice, just a genuine call to join her world. I smiled, picturing myself there not as a fixer, but as a guest free to enjoy something I'd helped inspire. Angela's message was a reminder of what I could build when I stopped carrying others. An email from Aunt Claire landed in my inbox later that day. "You did the right thing, Andrea," she wrote. "Setting boundaries took courage, and we're behind you." Uncle Mark and Lisa echoed her in their own messages, praising my strength. Their words wrapped around me like a shield, countering the guilt Mom had tried to plant. I wasn't alone in this. My family wasn't just Justin and my parents. It was these voices, the ones who saw my worth and cheered my stand. I closed my laptop knowing I'd chosen myself, and that was enough. A week later, my inbox was quiet, but my heart felt lighter. I opened my phone's contacts, scrolled to Justin's name, and hit delete. His number vanished, severing the last thread of our communication. After years of funding his life, $23,000 for his Dallas ballroom wedding, countless other expenses, I was done. Marissa's name stayed, but only as a formality. I hadn't heard from her since she tried to guilt me into paying more. The act of erasing Justin wasn't anger, it was clarity. I'd spent too long tethered to his demands, and cutting him out felt like reclaiming my own space. An envelope arrived from Patricia Quinn, my mom, her neat handwriting on the front. Inside, a letter apologized for misunderstandings and asked me to move forward together. Her words were softer than her usual lectures, But they sidestepped my pain the years I'd been used the uninvitation to Justin's wedding. I folded the letter and set it aside, my silence a choice, not a snub. Replying would pull me back into Mom's cycle of excuses for Justin, and I wasn't going there again. The letter stayed unanswered, a boundary I held without regret. My phone rang that evening, Stephen Quinn's name, my dad, flashing on the screen. "Andrea, we need to talk." He started, his voice heavy with frustration. He didn't ask about me, just pushed for reconciliation, echoing Mom's plea to keep the family intact. I let him speak, but my resolve didn't waver. "Dad, I'm protecting myself," I said, then ended the call. I blocked his number, my fingers steady. Blocking Dad wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I'd given enough, and their refusal to see my side left me no choice but to draw the line. Word spread among relatives about Mom and Dad's favoritism. Cousin Lisa texted that Aunt Claire had stopped returning Mom's calls, fed up with her defending Justin while dismissing my stand. Uncle Mark mentioned a family dinner where Mom and Dad sat quietly, their usual influence fading as cousins questioned their fairness. Their blind support for Justin had fractured their ties, leaving them isolated in their own family. I didn't wish this on them, but I saw it for what it was: the consequence of choosing one child's comfort over another's truth. Sitting at my desk, I reflected on what this journey taught me. Setting boundaries wasn't about punishing Justin, Mom, or Dad. It was about guarding my own worth. I'd spent years as the family's safety net, covering Justin's bills, absorbing their expectations, only to be cast aside when I said no. Saying no wasn't revenge, it was self-respect. I'd lost a brother, strained ties with my parents, but gained a clarity I'd never known. I was enough, and I didn't need their approval to prove it. That truth anchored me stronger than any guilt they'd tried to plant. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you for listening. I've shared my mess. Justin's betrayal, the wedding fallout, my fight to stand tall, because I know some of you have faced similar battles. If you've ever had to set boundaries with family, drop a comment below. Tell me how you held your ground, what it cost, and what you gained. Your stories matter, and I'd love to hear them.